everyone. I wanted to add an additional video this week that I had not originally planned because as I was reading through and grading the project plans, I was noticing a few patterns that I kind of wanted to address, specifically about revision. So let's talk about revision. I assign grades to drafts, and in order for you to kind of get a sense of where you are with the project such that you can get a sense of like what needs to be done in order to do well in the final version of the project. However, even if you receive pretty decent score on the draft, that doesn't necessarily mean that revision is not in order for the final version, because I hold drafts and final versions to different standards. So, and additionally, no matter what grade you get on the draft, I spend quite a bit of time giving feedback in the form of, it differs from assignment to assignment. So on the podcast and videos, it was more videos, right? But in the project plans, it was written feedback in the margins, in your drafts, and I spend quite a bit of time commenting on things, asking questions where I'm seeing that there's not enough information, and just generally giving suggestions. And I do that with a pedagogical purpose. If I ask a question, it's because I'm seeing some part of the assignment that's not being met. If I give a suggestion, it's because I see something in the assignment that's not being met, and I think that something should be improved and should be adjusted in the final version. So let me put it this way. I expect you to use those pieces of feedback in your next version. For the most part, that's happening. But there were a few final projects this last time that I saw that, either did one of two things. Either there was really not any sort of revision in the final version, perhaps because you thought, oh, I did really good on the draft, so I don't really need to do that much, in the final version. Maybe I'll add in a sentence. No. Especially if I give you more than one comment, you still need to be doing substantial work from the draft to the final version. And now what does that mean? It means that not only should you be responding to and incorporating the things that I'm asking for in those comments, it shouldn't just be like most of the things that I'm asking can't really be addressed by like a single sentence. I need to see that you've really thought through a response or, are providing extra details. And when I say details, I usually, again, mean more than one sentence. And more than one sentence kind of slapped onto the end of a paragraph. That's not substantial revision. Especially in these kind of written assignments, it's a little bit more difficult in the podcasts than in the videos, but even in those assignments as well, revision is not the same thing as editing, right? Editing is sort of more minute. It takes a little, it's sort of adding a sentence here and there. Revision will often mean that the final version looks substantially different than the draft. And it usually cannot be covered by just adding a sentence onto the end of every paragraph. When you add content, you need to make sure that this paragraph still coheres as a whole. Does what I'm saying here make sense? If I add this one sentence, does that change what I'm talking about? And sometimes it does. And that will mean that you'll need to reassess that entire paragraph, perhaps that entire section, perhaps that entire project. Additionally, if there's some things that I'm suggesting that like this doesn't really make sense, or that you're doing a lot of work here that isn't really related to the project, that translates into you don't need this material. You should cut it and you should spend more time doing the other things that I'm asking you to do. Leaving it in there often makes it look like I'm leaving it in there for fluff so that I can meet the word count. And that might not necessarily be your intent, but if I'm saying that something doesn't really apply to this project, that's a cue for you to say, okay, I got to take this part out and I have to address what she's asking me to do here in these comments. Because if I tell you, that something isn't as necessary, I will also likely have told you this is really what needs to be in the project instead. I'm not just going to say, hey, cut this all out and then not give you anything else to talk about, right? That's not fair. So again, some kind of big points about revision is, one, really work your suggestions, weave them into the new document. Don't just stick a sentence on the end of every new paragraph and think you're done. Two, make sure that you're doing enough revision in the final version. Again, not just slapping a sentence on the end of a paragraph. I'm going to kind of keep saying that because I saw it in quite a few instances of this final version. And then, make sure you're providing ample information of the sort that I ask for in the comments. And then three, when I say something doesn't really apply to this project, take it out, throw it away, because it's not really necessary and it's going to kind of hold your project back. All of that said, often what I do in revisions, me personally, when I'm moving from a draft of something, I've given it to someone, they've given me feedback, a colleague has said, oh, here are my suggestions, this whole section doesn't make sense, I think you really need to reframe the whole project around this idea instead of this idea. If someone hands me those kinds of substantial suggestions, usually what I do is I open up a brand new document and save it under a brand new project title. I'll say project plan _ V2, because I want to start from scratch with my new understanding of the project. This might not need to be the case in every revision that you do, but if there's a lot of comments that I'm making that saying you need to do this here, you need to do this here, you need to do this here, it might just be a better idea to start from scratch instead of trying to tack things on and sort of sew it in, haphazardly to the previous version, because kind of thinking about it and starting afresh will likely give you a better, thing to start from than just adding stuff on. That's really what a substantial revision looks like. So wanted to kind of pause there because this was the first written assignment, the first major written assignment that we've done in this class. The other two have been, multimedia projects. So I wanted to kind of do a little bit of intervention here, so that you can see that this, in upcoming drafts, drafts and then final projects, that's what I'm going to be looking for in this the design document and script, and then in the blog post as well, which will be forthcoming down the road. Both of which are written projects, both of which I will give substantial written feedback on, and so both of which I will expect substantial revision from the draft to the final version, because I don't want to, even if you present something that's on track and is doing well so far, there's always room for improvement. And I don't believe in falsely downgrading a draft because I want to motivate you to make major changes. I think that's silly. But I wanted to kind of make these notes and let you guys know that if you saw that kind of discrepancy from the draft grade to the final project grade, that's where that's coming from. So feel free to email me with any questions or concerns you might have. That's all I've got for you for now, and hope you have a great week.